years for third-time felons whose past crimes have involved violence. But critics are now saying that three strikes law goes too far. A case in point, one man who was free tonight, but who came close to being unjustly locked up for life. We begin our in-depth reporting now with NBC's George Lewis.
Willie Earl McNary got his life back today. He could have spent the rest of it in prison for stealing 2 shirts from a San Diego department store. It was his third offense, and under California's 3 strikes law, a sentence of 25 years to life is mandatory. But today, the prosecutor admitted McNary had been falsely convicted of one of those prior crimes, a department store robbery.
We know now that Mr. McNary didn't commit that crime.
After 6 years in prison, McNary had almost given up hope that he would hear a judge say this.
He's a free man.
And while McNary went free today, others won't. Their cases are clogging the courts and the prisons. Under 3 strikes, offenders can still plea bargain, but the law requires them to do substantial prison time. So now most third strike suspects facing the possibility of 25 years to life are demanding jury trials.
Yes.
Wants a trial?
For judges like James Basque, the result is staggering.
The volume of work that I confront personally every day has been doubled, if you will. I mean, the number of cases going to trial has significantly increased.
In many California communities, all civil trials have been canceled to catch up with the criminal case workload. 3 strikes also puts a tremendous strain on the prison system. With so many third strike defendants awaiting trial, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is forced to release 4,200 misdemeanor inmates every month to make room for incoming 3 strike prisoners. Experts say that to arrest, convict, and lock up third strike defendants will cost California $5.5 billion annually, and that it will be several years before criminals targeted by the law are convicted and put away. Some judges and lawyers say the problem is the way 3 strikes is applied in California. Dwayne Williams' third felony conviction was for stealing a slice of pizza. Jed Miller was tried and convicted of stealing a bike, his third conviction. The biggest third strike crime categories: 3,749 people sentenced for drug possession, 1,959 sentenced for petty theft, 1,461 for second-degree burglary. Only 40 murderers and 25 rapists have been sent away under 3 strikes.
Sending people to prison for truly trivial offenses like drug possession and petty theft is inhumane.
San Francisco writer Ann Garrison was robbed and almost beaten to death. She believes the 3 strike law should target only violent criminals, that including petty criminals is a big mistake.
They're going to spend a lot of time in prison. They're going to come out angrier and meaner than they went in.
Willie McNary walked free today, but almost 16,000 others remain in a prison system that's running out of room for those yet to come. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Now, another dissenting voice. David Bristow was a prosecutor with the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office, but he was fired after he refused to prosecute a suspect who, under the 3 strikes law, could have faced a life sentence for what Bristow thought was a minor offense. Now, David Bristow's a public defender. His story tonight, in his own words.
This is my first felony trial, and it would involve a man who had been arrested for being in a car where there was 0.23 grams of cocaine, and that was his third strike. You're suddenly facing a human being that you personally, as a representative of the state, are going to be putting in prison for life, and I couldn't do it. Had he been there for a serious or a violent felony, I don't think I would have any problem doing that. But the nature of the crime that he had committed to put himself in court that day was of a nature that I didn't feel it warranted the kind of punishment he was looking at. But my boss, the district attorney, said, look, 3 strikes is the law, and I can understand where you might have problems with it, but your job is to prosecute the laws in the state. But the real issue is, if I was going to be in Superior Court doing trials, and I had a problem doing third strike cases, I wasn't going to be a very effective district attorney. And so now I'm on the other side as a public defender. The biggest flaw in 3 strikes is trying to fit every crime into one very narrow mailbox. It leaves the possibility of injustice wide open. And so if someone steals a small item, candy bar, piece of pizza, then they're going to be sent to prison for life. I just don't think that the people in 20th century America expect someone who steals a pair of shoes to go to prison for life. And I think if you explain that to the citizens of the state, they'd probably agree with me.
Courts are overflowing. Criminal defendants, once willing to plea bargain, now fill the courts, fighting conviction every step of the way.
The law was passed without regard to resources, and the system is breaking down.
To California's Attorney General, crowded courts and jails are simply proof the law is working, and the bulge is temporary.
This is like watching a rat go through a snake. The rat's at the front end of the snake.
But the system is now at capacity.
Every bad guy we lock up, we're letting somebody else out the back door.
3 strikes is not a perfect law.
San Francisco's district attorney says the answer to overcrowding is to use 3 strikes for violent offenders, not for property and drug crimes.
People have just applied that law in a draconian fashion and not utilized the discretion that is given to the district attorney.
Mark Klass worries paying for 3 strikes will leave California in sad shape by the year 2000.
We will have built 40 prisons in the state of California, and we will have added only 1 new state college.
While crime rates in California have dropped, they've dropped even more in states that have no 3 strikes law. The numbers are still unclear, but Mark Klass is certain the law that is his daughter's legacy will not bring the justice he was seeking. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Francisco.
From punishing criminals to preventing crimes. Coming up next, Eye on America, an anti-crime strategy that seems to be working.